Hi everyone, and welcome to Upscale Your Onboarding. I'm Sarah Penn, CEO of Mayflower Consulting, and it's great to have so many people here. Let's get started. Okay, this is what we're going to cover today. First of all, quick bit about me. Secondly, about you, we're going to talk about what you should get out of it by the end of the session. Then we're going to have a look at some of the research that's been done recently around onboarding with clients so you can get a feel for some of the landscape issues. Then we're going to have a look at your goals for onboarding your clients. Then we're going to the bulk of it is looking at the process. How do you onboard clients? What are the steps? How does it all fit together? What technology can you use? We're going to finish by looking at messaging, because I think great messaging forms the heart of fantastic communications, and onboarding people is really all about, to my mind, about communication. And then we're going to finish with some question time. Okay, quick bit about me. My name's Sarah Penn. I'm the CEO of Mayflower Consulting. I'm the founder of Telescope Fact Find, which has just launched. It's a new online fact find for financial planners to use with their clients. I'm a marketing expert, if I do say so myself, and I'm passionate about more people getting great advice, and that's my business, Mayflower Consulting. So at the end of this webinar, you will understand what the research is saying about onboarding and what that means for you. You will have started looking at the onboarding goals for your business. Of course, it's a very short webinar, so you won't have finished with them, but it gives you a start and somewhere to then go back and have a chat to the other people in your team at work about what this might mean. You're going to have a bit of a clearer view about which steps of your onboarding process need attention, and you will have started on your key messages with a framework as to how to do that. Okay, so this is what the research says. First of all, 25 to 50% of potential clients drop out during onboarding. These are obviously industry averages from our friends at Advisor Ratings. 50% is when it's cold client. So that means it's not a warm lead. They don't know someone that you know. They've found you via a website or SEO or Facebook or what have you. Half of those will drop out. Where it's a warm lead, i.e. someone that you, one of your clients has introduced someone else to you, about a quarter of them will drop out. Now, there's two things that I find problematic around this. One, people only get on board with the financial planning process if they really feel like they're ready to do something about it. It's quite a strong call to action before they even get to you. And secondly, in a lot of cases, financial planners, that's you guys, don't get paid until the clients have actually implemented the advice. So this means you are doing a lot of work for no money at all. Secondly, and this is from my research as part of building Telescope, clients are really worried about what you're going to say to them. They're really worried, and I realise this is ridiculous, but they are worried that you're going to tell them that they've totally stuffed up, that they're an idiot, that they've got the worst finances that you've ever seen, that they're never going to be able to retire, and that their life is practically over. So, and it's good to know that they're coming from that place of quite a lot of stress before they even start the process. And lastly, and again, this is from my research, clients aren't sure they've made the right decision even 1 or 2 years down the track. So they may well have followed every recommendation that you've given them, they've done everything you've said, but they're still not sure that they've made the right decision in going with you. And so my takeout out of this is that onboarding really is a very ongoing process and doesn't just finish when they implement the first lot of advice you give them, but you need to continue to establish that relationship. And a lot of that will be through familiarity, because we trust things that we're familiar with. Okay, let's have a look at what successful onboarding entails. First of all, you need to deliver value in every interaction. Every time a client interacts with you, your staff, your website, an email or anything else from you, there needs to be value. Secondly, you need to set and manage expectations. When people know what's going to happen, they can deal with quite long processes. If they don't know what's going to happen, they're just going to continue to get fed up and annoyed as things seem to take an awfully long time. Thirdly, you want to engage the client. Every time you speak to them, you don't just want to deliver value and set expectations, but you want them to be engaged and interested in what's happening and thinking about what their future might look like. And fourthly, really what you're trying to do overall is set up a successful ongoing advice relationship. So the client continues to use your services and hopefully refers you to lots of other people. So I've got a little picture of the plane or the rocket taking off to show that. So in terms of what your onboarding goals are, There's a few ways you might think about it. You might think about a number of people that you want to onboard in the next 12 months, say 20, whatever the number is for you. You might do it as a percentage in that of the people that you have a coffee meeting with or a quick phone chat that you want them to be clients. A certain percentage of them go ahead with the advice. Maybe it's 80%. Your goals might actually be to clean up the process or to get a really clear process in. Whatever your goals are, if you write them down and share them with your team, you will find you've got a much better chance of meeting with them. And as I often say, marketing is a team sport. The best way you can do marketing is to have everyone in the business involved, know what's going on, preferably actually part of the decision making, because then they'll have skin in the game and they'll be much more likely to help you achieve the goals that you have. Okay, so let's have a look at the onboarding process. This is how it generally looks. You have an initial chat of some description, a fact-find meeting, you follow up to get all the information they haven't given you the first time. You'll have a first strategy meeting, a second strategy meeting, and then you'll implement the advice. Simple, except from a consumer's perspective, it doesn't look anything like that. From their perspective, it looks like this. I've met the advisor, but I really hope my partner likes them. God, that was a long meeting. 2 or 3 hour meetings aren't unusual, as you would well know, but obviously that's a very long time for people to sit there and talk about themselves. Most of us, especially Australians, don't like doing that at the best of times. Then they're going to wonder why you keep needing more and more information from them. If they've seen an accountant, the accountant can just put in their details and everything magically appears. When they see you, you have to provide it, which is a very different experience and one that needs management. Then they're going to be thinking about the fact probably they haven't heard anything for a while. Again, you need to be managing this. They're going to be wondering whether when you have that strategy meeting, whether or not this guy, girl, this financial planner really understands us. They really know what we want out of life. And of course, the difficulty here is that your average consumer, they don't know what they want out of life, but they figure that you will somehow magically elicit it from them. And in fact, if you're an excellent planner, you will. Then they'll be starting to worry about what if they're not doing the right thing, if your recommendations aren't the right ones for them. So helping them work through that process, potentially by providing alternatives or showing them the thought process that you've gone through will really help. And they'll be wondering if they've missed something. And then at the end of it, of course, as we all know, jokes aside, they're not going to read the statement of advice. It'll be too long. So instead of thinking about it as a sort of a 6-step process from your side, this is how I want you to think about it. You have an initial chat, then you are going to set expectations, reprocess, and dollars. And ideally, you will actually get them to pay up front. That sounds unusual probably, but think about it this way. If you've ever been to Disneyland or anywhere else that is incredibly expensive but a big experience, you pay up front. You pay a lot of money up front. And then during the day, you actually continue to pay money, generally for trinkets and balloons and food and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, when you leave, it's been fantastic. You've had a great time. You're tired, your feet hurt, but you're going home with all the excellent memories. The problem is, think about it the other way. You walk in, it's free, everything's free along the way, you're having a fantastic time. And then when you get to the end, when you're tired and your feet hurt, you get to the end and they say, fantastic, we've added it up, and that's $450. At which point you start to have that horrible thing of, oh my God, how much money have we spent? I'm not sure it's really been worth it. Am I getting value? When you start to really second guess. And unfortunately, that is the way we tend to do things with financial planning, which is we collect the money at the end. So by collecting the money at the start and setting the process, people will have a much better time through it. And at the end, we'll have fantastic memories and we'll feel like a great thing has happened rather than suddenly being hit with a big bill. Then when you have a fact-find meeting, obviously you want that to be as excellent as possible. So ideally they will have completed at least some information before they've walked in the door. And then you are going to be managing expectations. You're going to see this a lot. You need to make sure they understand how long everything's going to take. When you do the follow-up, you again need to manage the expectations. When you have a strategy meeting off the back of that, you need to manage the expectations. Going back a few steps in this, I'll just fill out the red so you can see. When we're coming back to here around your fact find and follow up and managing expectations, often this is where things get a bit ugly because often it can be a long process between fact find and strategy. It might be 4 weeks. But here's the thing, instead of saying, I've got a lot of clients that I'm seeing at the moment and it'll take me 4 weeks before I can get to you, you could put it a different way. You could say, we have a 4-week process. In the first week, I get together with my team and we talk about what you're trying to achieve and consider a bunch of different options. In the second week, we do the cash flow modelling and figure out how we can best help you meet your financial goals. In the third week, we look at products and we think about whether or not you need to change any of the products you have in order to get you the best outcome in the long term. And in the fourth week, we put together the statement of advice and double check everything and make sure it's perfect. Now, doesn't that sound like a much better way to explain it than I'm really sorry, I'm busy at the moment and I can't get to you for 4 weeks? So what I want you to think about here, especially if you're worried, is rather than throwing the whole thing out, just think about maybe picking out 1 or 2 of these steps that you think you could do things differently in that will get you a better outcome. It might be the step at which you tend to lose people out of the journey. It might just be that you know that there's a particular stage in this that isn't great. So again, rather than chucking out the lot, pick 1 or 2 points and think about those and how you're going to change them. Okay, let's have a look at onboarding technology. This is obviously one of the ways that you can improve the things that you've got. Firstly, you might consider using Telescope. Telescope is my new online fact find for financial planners to use. It's dead easy. Clients can complete it at home and obviously gets the whole process off to a much better start. Then you might think about using Calendly. Calendly is a tool for booking meetings. I was a bit anti it because it is very impersonal, but I tell you what, it saves so much time. I'm now a major convert. You might also look at using Zoom. So while you might have your first meeting in person, often follow-up meetings, if you can do them online, it saves travel time all round, much easier to schedule using Calendly again, and you can speed up the advice process. I am a big proponent of Zoom. Next, you've got Loom, which rhymes with Zoom, which is quite unhelpful. Loom is a way of recording videos. Now, if you want to include videos at any stages of the process, say after you've had a coffee meeting with people, you want to use a video where you run through how the process works, set expectations, talk about money and all the rest of it, something standard, you can do that using Loom. It's free, super easy. And if you are using Zoom, then you want to think about using something like DocuSign, which helps you get documents signed. I know not all product providers will accept it, but I tell you what, the ones that do, it's worth everything. And lastly, as I mentioned, getting people to pay earlier in the process is a fantastic thing. It really smooths things out. And if you do get stuck, you can, of course, always give a refund. Now, you can integrate Stripe with Calendly so that when they book the meeting in, or you book the meeting in with them, they pay at that time. Marvelous. Okay. So that's how you can use technology. But as I said, the other thing that's super important is the messaging side of things. So let's have a look at how that can work. This is a framework for thinking about how you're going to put together the key messages that you want people to take away from the whole experience and from various stages, not just in your written communications, but also in the way that you interact with people and the way you want your staff to interact with clients as well. So it's pretty straightforward on paper anyway. What you want to think about is how do clients, potential clients, think, how do they feel, and what do they do at the moment when it comes to sorting out their financial situation? They might think that it's all too hard, they might feel overwhelmed, and they therefore might do nothing. In future, obviously, after seeing you, you want them to think, wow, I got lots of value out of that process. You want them to feel confident and empowered to look after their financial future going forward with your help. And obviously you want them to implement your recommendations, and also cough up the cash. So what you then do is think about what is the messaging and potentially activities that will bring about that change. It's important here to remember that people are not a blank slate. They do come with all their baggage. So, and this is typically what people actually do in marketing, is start from a blank sheet. Okay, people don't know anything, and so I build my happy messages on top of that. But what you actually want to do is start from the position they really are, which is going to be all that emotional baggage and where they're at the moment. And this is going to be completely different depending on how old or young clients are, their previous life experience, if they're a particular cohort of people. For instance, most people know the running joke about doctors is they think they know everything. And it's going to be different for different groups of people. But the more time you can spend on this and the clearer you can get about it, you'll find this really helps you nail down how you want to speak to clients about the process. And when you have a couple of key messages, only talking 2, 3 or 4, you can make sure that every piece of communication that you do relates back to those messages. You will get a much better outcome. It'll be consistent. It'll resonate with your potential clients and make them feel like that you understand them. This is a funny thing. You probably do understand them, but for some reason, when it comes to written communications, we tend to be terrible at somehow going back to writing all kinds of things on the page which do not demonstrate that you understand the clients. Alrighty, so that finishes up all the things we're going to cover today. It is the cook's tour, I know, of onboarding. Okay, so to finish up, let's look at the key takeouts. Firstly, as we mentioned right at the start, between 1/4 and 1/2 of potential clients don't finish the onboarding process, which can be a lot of time and money down the drain from your side. So it's definitely worth paying attention and thinking about what you can do to improve it. Secondly, customers are nervous and easily spooked. This always surprises me how much people really think that it's possible that you're going to tell them off. I mean, I can't imagine a financial advisor ever telling a client off, but that is what people expect. Thirdly, successful onboarding is all about setting expectations, and if you do a great job, it should actually encourage referrals, which is fantastic because it means you don't need to be doing so much in the way of that nasty marketing that most people don't enjoy. Then I think it's really important to have goals. If you're going to do some work on your onboarding process, you want to have some goals so that you know whether or not that work is paying off. Then I would say probably the most important thing out of all of this is to look at onboarding from the client's perspective. It's so easy when you run a business and you're just trying to get everything done, meet compliance, keep your team happy and all the rest of it, to look at things as just a process. But the more you can look at it from the client's perspective, the better outcome you will get. And lastly, and this is probably because I come from a communications background, but seriously, great messaging makes all the difference. It will set the whole thing up to a good start, and really demonstrate straight away that you're understanding clients and where they're at. And lastly, if you want to get in touch, this is how you can do it. I've got email, Facebook. If you're interested in booking a meeting with me, you can use Calendly, as I mentioned before, if you want to find out more about Telescope, for instance. And on that note, we're going to open the floor to questions.